part of the anticipation, in this particular play, it's a lot of anticipation, like the ketchup ad. Right? There's a lot of anticipation in this play before we get to like the moment, right? So there's this slow build, you know, like at the roller coaster. It is like, oh my God, please get to the top. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it, right? There's a little bit. So part of that is, here are some of the pieces and parts of this anticipation, is this notion of temptation, which Cassius is representing. Hero receives a summons or call to action. Cassius is kind of doing the whole thing, right? Now, this is not different than any other play in a way, right? It's not necessarily about a tragedy, because everybody sort of has this call, this summons. I mean, even in Further Adventures of Hedda Gabler had a summons, right? She had a call to action, did she not? She was shocked into doing something. So this is not an unusual thing just for tragedy. It's sort of the way we get things going in plays in general, okay? And either originates within themselves. Brutus does not have this big idea, or at least we don't think he has had this big idea, but like Macbeth, perhaps he has thought about this big idea, right? There's a whole big debate with Macbeth, and he thought about it before. The witches say, the witches make him do it, or you know, all that, right? Or personified in the figure of tempter or temptress who lures them on, right? You can read Macbeth all the way through this, right? You know, temptress. Right, okay. Then there's this notion about sort of the divided self, which is really seems more suited to sort of the tragic hero than it does about the comedic hero, who never really thinks much about himself. He just kind of goes from one thing to the next, sort of, you know, forgets to learn the lessons so that we can do it again the next week, right? And sort of you can sort of see that in sort of the way sitcoms manufacture, you know, are manufactured as well. But that there's certain kind of finiteness to the tragic hero, partly because guess what, they're going to die at the end of their play, so you can't, you know, you kind of have to get this all over with. The sort of moral of the story, or the lessons that we take away. The comic hero, it's like, you know, Moliere's going to do the same thing again tomorrow, really. It was just sort of delightful, you know, sort of in a kind of way. So this whole notion of sort of divided self does seem to be more tragic hero-esque. And it makes for more dimensionality, doesn't it? Somebody who's kind of like really thinking about things. I mean, Macbeth does spend 6 minutes, maybe, actually thinking about, you know, what he's about to do. I mean, you have to give him a little credit, right? Need to keep the dark impulses and actions hidden from the world behind a light or respectable front. Everybody says Brutus, right? What's the last thing they say about Brutus at the end of the play? Like the most noble of all, right? And his first lines have to do with how honorable he is. He couldn't possibly have these kinds of ideas because he's a very honorable guy, he's a very loyal guy. He likes Caesar. Right. And so you know that in a play, the minute anybody says something at the beginning of the play, it's coming to absolute opposite by the end, right? I mean, you know that's a law. It's an indisputable law. And so him positioning himself, saying, here's how I am, over and over and over and over and over again, protesting, right? We've had that line in Hamlet somewhere, right, about protesting too much. That is going to invariably be the thing that is the ironic switch. And that's actually what's going to happen at the end of the play as well. And then there's this struggle or waver before succumbing, a sign that they are initially not, you know, it's not just like single-minded things. Actually, I'm thinking about this, right? He's got that moment before they're going to kill him, right? I mean, the night before, he's really struggling. Does he do it? Does he not do it? How hard does Cassius have to work to talk him into it, right? And actually, until he kind of stabs Caesar, I might say that I'm not so sure he's actually going to participate in it. Even though he's there, I think it's an interesting thing to sort of think about when he actually finally takes action. I mean, he's the last to stab, I think, right? Do you remember? I think he's the last to stab, and you kind of almost think that even then he's having a struggle with it. How much does he believe Cassius, who's working on his vanity, isn't he? Right? He's working not so much about the state. Oh, come on! It's really, you know, it's an interesting sort of political tactic on Cassius's part, isn't it? So we've got wavering through the stormy, ill-omened night. I didn't make any of this up. Until the evil angel finally persuades him, right? I mean, this is sort of an interesting sort of thing. So we're still working our way up to the top of the roller coaster.